there's been over 4 million homeowners that have gone into forbearance. So just using that raw data, which, I'm sure there's, I don't know which way it leans. If that holds true, 25%, it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that's 1 million. 1 million Pfitzer homeowners going into foreclosure, potentially. All right, we are live on the Facebook. We are live in the Zoom. We've got people jumping in. I am back with my main man, Brian Stevens, with the National Real Estate Post. And we are here for a week in the month where we share the latest news on what the hell is going on in our industry that you need to be knowing about, that is going to affect you. And so, Brian, today we've got a plethora of things we can talk about.
We do.
But I want to start with forbearance for two reasons. One, you mentioned it. And two, I'm actually posting a video today where I talk about forbearance and how it impacts you and how it creates opportunity for you as a realtor. Before I turn the floor over to you, I want to share some data that I took from an article, which was it was something about all of the forbearance, over the last 12 months, obviously. And for those of you that don't know what forbearance is, gosh, God help you. But it's when a mortgage servicer allows you to temporarily pay your mortgage at a lower payment or pause your mortgage, right? As a result of COVID, that's really what's caused this, right? And of all of the forbearance, here's the stats from this article. 10% of the people that took out forbearance are getting it modified. 15% are paying it all back at once. 25% are deferring the unpaid amounts. Another 25% never needed it to begin with, AKA they're paying it as normal. And the final 25% they're seeing are probably going into default and impending foreclosure. That covers our all 100%. It's interesting data. Now let's talk about it and why that kind of impacts them, and then kind of like share your thoughts on the forbearance and what's coming, what you see coming.
Yeah, well, the 5.6% that are re-entering forbearance, and for the first time, we've been talking about for the past, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 months is these forbearances are kind of performing and the numbers are going down and everybody was clapping their hands. Well, we were saying, yeah, people are coming out of forbearance, they're modifying their loans and they're not making their payments. So we saw, as we talked about, our 60 and 90-day lates were increasing as forbearance were going down. So we saw the industry pushing a narrative that was not entirely accurate. They were saying things are looking up, and we were saying, hold on a second here, you're missing the boat on this. Now, with the 5.6% of people going back into forbearance, what that tells us is those loans are no longer performing. And that's a really scary point. And what we've also just seen is the Fed came out, or excuse me, the CFPB came out and said, we're going to take forbearances and we're going to increase them all the way through September of next year. So once again, for the third time, we keep kicking this can down the road year after year, month after month. Why are we doing this with forbearances? It's because we collectively don't have a solution to the problem in front of us. Servicers are losing their mind right now. And as you just said, Jeff, we're finding that a lot of these loans are not performing. Massive numbers of loans are not performing. You can't modify them because they don't have jobs. Our job reports, by the way, failed to meet expectations for the second month in a row, meaning a lot of those folks who are in forbearance are under or unemployed. And so the only inevitability for a huge portion, a swath of these forborne loans is going to be simply to short sale them, have realtors jump in front as quick as possible, or the worst case scenario, they're going to turn into foreclosures. From a real estate agent's perspective, is this bad news or is this good news? Well, what have you guys been talking about for the past couple of years? We have no inventory, and we don't. This is going to create that inventory for you. But we have so much remarkable demand in spite of a lot of the economic news that's bad, that even if we had a fairly large number of short sales or foreclosures, that's not going to kill the values in our community. The only thing that we could hope it to do is slow down this rapid, crazy growth in terms of what our sales prices are. Because right now, as we sit here and speak, we're still finding records month over month in terms of appreciation, and that's not a good thing. Like all the equity that we're creating right now, we have to ask ourselves, is it real? Is it real? Or is it inflated? And right now it's kind of starting to look like it's inflated. And it scares the living bejesus out of me to see how high we're going right now, because the only thing that I can conclude is that's going to start coming back down. And we just want to make sure when it does come down that it's a gradual decline, not a massive off the cliff decline as we saw over a decade ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the record, there's been over 4 million homeowners that have gone into forbearance. So just using that raw data, which, I'm sure there's, I don't know which way it leans. If that holds true, 25%, it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that's 1 million. 1 million petition homeowners going into foreclosure, potentially, which to me says, and the point of my video was, you need to be opening dialogue with your past clients. You need to be talking about this. You
Absolutely.
need to be bringing it up. You need to be creating content about it. You need to be opening the door to these conversations, because there's still a lot of opportunity for these people. If they're sitting there and they're struggling and they're about ready to lose their house and they're probably sitting on equity in their house, sell the damn thing, avoid the foreclosure, avoid the big bad check mark.
Yep.
Go rent for a while. We'll tell you why you figure things out. And then as a realtor, which is the whole point of this conversation, you create opportunities for yourself.
And avoid the massive cost of a foreclosure. A foreclosure is going to eat up any equity that you have. I think the numbers that we saw before, as we spoke about before, it's close to $80,000, the cost of a foreclosure when it's all said and done. But here's a scenario. Let's talk about this. We know the current administration, and I agree with it. The current administration is hell-bent on serving underserved communities in a manner that has not been seen in previous administrations. Okay, they're going after folks who generally have, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, we know this, have lower credit scores, lower income, and are inherently, as a result of that, a higher risk. They are a higher risk, understand this, because of their inherent lower credit scores and the fact that they don't earn as much money and their jobs are not as stable. It all makes sense. So right now, we just found out that the FHFA came out and said credit scores don't predict mortgage default risk. Okay.
Wait. Credit scores don't predict default risk. So you're saying a 550 is the same risk as an 800?
Yep.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
It is an about face contradiction to every metric on every mortgage ever written in the history of any type of securitization over nearly 100 years.
And who said this?
The FHFA.
Oh my gosh.
Which the FHFA, as I hope you guys know, holds Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in conservatorship, the government-sponsored enterprises that give the implicit federal guarantee on over 50% of all mortgages in this country. Why would they do that? Well, here's something I'm kind of thinking. And again, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but we know that we're going to have massive defaults. And somebody's going to have to buy those loans, and somebody's going to have to guarantee those loans and securitize those loans, which means somebody's going to have to change their underwriting guidelines to then go ahead and write loans that are inherently riskier. This is a third time we've seen this, by the way. So this is over the past couple of weeks, we have seen a massive push of the government, of HUD, who is your FHFA and your USDA and your VA, but we don't need to worry about them, and your Fannie and Freddie loans, to start writing super, super risky loans. Now, I just had a conversation with Dave Stevens, who was the past president of the FHFA, or excuse me, the past president of FHA, and the past president of the Mortgage Bankers Association. And he said that, well, okay, this is a little bit of grandstanding going on because nobody's going to write these loans. Well, now we have the FHFA coming out once again and saying, oh, credit scores they don't predict a foreclosure. Come on, you're crazy. There is a massive push to put people in the homes that are going to get foreclosed on, and they want to write the riskiest loans in the world. And I couldn't agree with you more. You said it perfectly. It is the dumbest thing ever said in the world.
I mean, and so again, and our job here is to seek the opportunity. So although that's really stupid, this is not the first time in the history of our country we've done stupid things and made stupid decisions.
Yep.
This creates opportunity for you, because it's going to open up the spectrum of availability of credit to the borrowers who may not have been qualifying over the last 12 to 24 months, correct?
Yeah, inherently high risk folks are going to have availability to federally guaranteed credit. Now, there's going to be a lot. Now, from a realtor's perspective, what's in it for me? Well, certainly that. All right, we're going to start writing loans for people who couldn't get loans yesterday. So go find those folks who we're going to write loans for and get them into homes. That's what your job is. If the federal government is going to come out and tell you that this is who they want to put in homes, so your job as a real estate agent, because you're going to be offered federally insured money to do this, find the people who are going to be putting those homes. Because here's the deal. It's kind of like the great subprime days. It's going to be you or your competition. Who's going to win that dollar? But I think what you're going to run into is what we continue talking about, the narratives on the National Real Estate Post, is that a lot of lenders are not going to be writing these loans. Again, we're seeing margin contraction right now. As we told you a moment ago, margin contraction means we're going to see higher rates and lower rates. It's a price bidding war in the mortgage space. And this is going to be a part of it. So as a real estate agent, talk to multiple lenders, find out what they're going to be offering, because you might find people who are very much in the market and very much out of the market. Now, I mean, okay, if we have a chance to write a $500,000 contract or a $50,000 contract, what are we going to want to write? So perhaps you don't want to go after this segment of the market, but perhaps you do. What we want to let you know is this is just what's going to happen. And every real estate agent has to make what decision they're going to do with how they spend their time over the course of a day, week, and month.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's important. And that's two right there. You talk about the forbearance, you talk about the potential opportunity there. That's our job. This whole credit score thing is ludicrous, but at the same token, hey, it's kind of like negative amortization loans back in the day. It's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but okay, if you're going to give it to me, I suppose I'll go ahead and offer it to the masses, right?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
No, and I was going to say what we're writing riskier loans, and the other component of this is now we're finding these government enterprises are coming out and saying, well, maybe we don't need to have appraisers anymore. Maybe we could just let real estate agents go out there and determine the value. Well, listen, I get real estate agents are fantastic at what they do, but they have a dog in the fight, don't they? Like, just even if they're doing something like a BPO on a property that they're not involved with, they still know the other realtors, right? I mean, so they do have a dog in a fight. So that is another layer of risk that we're starting to hear. And I find all of this scary, because what we know is you're going to have loans that might perform for a few months, but they're going to eventually fail. If you start writing loans for people with 560 credit scores, where you're not sure what the value of that asset is going to be at high LTV loans, we know this. Fannie Mae has been around since 1920. They've been around for 100 years. We know that those loans fail. This is like that Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day, where we're recycling bad ideas. And listen, I want to put high-risk people into houses too. I want to serve underserved communities, but there is a responsible and an irresponsible way of doing it. And right now, everything that we're hearing from this administration, again, scares the bejeebers out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. That appraisal point is also scary because, I mean, remember, part of the reason why we crashed back in 07, 08 was because of the pressure that was being put on appraisers, which inevitably started from realtors pushing lenders pushing, appraisers, because we had to get the values. And even though there's millions and wonderful realtors out there doing the right thing, there's also many bad apples, and there's people that are in it for a commission, and you can't do that. There's got to be a third party. That's a really bad idea. But hey,
it was Washington Mutual, remember? And it was Fannie and Freddie, and it was the New York State Attorney General, and it was called the Home Valuation Code of Conduct. And that's why we have AMCs right now. That's why we don't have the same level of appraiser independence. That's why we no longer have appraisers getting into the industry. That's why we have Fannie and Freddie going out there and lowering the standards to get more appraisers in the game. But the other thing they're doing is they're starting to look at automation valuation systems. as a permanent form, kind of like a Zestimate. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're taking data, they're aggregating it, and they're going into neighborhoods and they're determining values on properties. And what they're trying to do is automate appraisers out of the system. Well, every real estate agent in the world knows you can go into one house and be like, damn, this is tight. This place looks great. And you can go into the next house where there were tweakers in there and they're, taking the sheetrock off the walls.
Yeah.
Well, if you have an automated valuation system, how are you going to determine what the value of those two houses are?
Yeah.
Well, now they're coming out and saying, well, maybe we'll go have a real estate agent go in there or somebody go in there and just poke their head around to see if this whole thing works. It's like, okay, don't we call those people appraisers? Why not just put appraisers back in properties? I had a real estate agent out in Grass Valley, California, which is a high cost area. And she had an appraiser reach out. She had an appraiser reach out to her on a property that was in contract for somewhere around $550,000. And they said, hey, we want to do another appraisal on this property. And she said, well, I haven't spoke with my lender. Oh, I want to find out what's going on about this, because she was afraid it was going to somehow torpedo the deal, right? Like we're going to get stuck up on this thing, and they were about to close it in a couple of weeks. And the appraiser said, well, this doesn't involve him. Nobody's going to know about this. That the person who hired him was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So Fannie and Freddie, we know, are going out there and looking at properties that are at least as high as $550,000. Why are they doing that? It's not an entire conspiratorial thing, because I think most real estate agents and everybody in the industry is kind of seeing, reading the tea leaves of what's going on here. But I mean, from my perspective, in my 20 years in real estate and lending, I find it fairly shocking that we would consider this a good option. Again, we're just adding risk. And right now, dude, we're doing kind of a doom and gloom Monday. Wow. But again, the doom and gloom creates opportunity. It does in every facet of real estate.
Crazy. Yeah, it's important to know this stuff. It's important to be prepared for it. It makes you better. It makes you better at your craft.
Well, I got to ask you a question first.
Yeah, let's go.
What do you find more interesting? That dejected royalty from a foreign country just had a kid that we're talking about in the news on every news station today, or that a YouTube star that I've personally never heard of got in a fight with a former champion?
Yeah.
Which is a more interesting news story to you?
I mean, well, I'm a sports guy, and I actually bought the fight because I actually. It's funny story, Brian. My oldest daughter actually was dating Jake Paul's manager. So I've gotten to know and kind of be infiltrated into the Paul thing. I don't know Logan very well at all. I don't even know Jake at all. I've been to his house. But now I've become enamored with that nonsense. And so the answer to your question is I was into the boxing match.
Oh my God, it was a guilty pleasure. I did the same thing too. I sat down and watched it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've never seen that guy before. And I was listening to my daughter and a couple of my friends who were younger than me talking about he's the most hated person on YouTube. And then I saw the fight, and he actually did a pretty darn good job. And I thought afterwards what he had to say was cool. I'm like, yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with that kid in my book.
He didn't look like an a-hole at all. He actually he presented himself very well. But yeah, he makes millions. He's worth 30-40 million because he's an asshole, because he acts like an asshole. I don't think he really is. It's just he just plays the part on TV.
He's playing the part. All right, so getting back on track. What's our last point?
We were going to talk about profit margins declining in the mortgage side, which could potentially have an effect on the real estate side. Please explain what the hell this means.
Yes, and this is where the price war comes in. And there's going to be winners and losers. You know how we have like every 5th year, the airlines, before COVID, they would have price wars and they would try to beat each other to the bottom. So what we're finding right now, and it's starting to have an effect, and we spoke about this before, is mortgage lenders are starting to look at the lack of volume that they're doing, and they're trying to find ways to increase their volume to keep with their staff type of thing. So what they do is they lower their interest rates to try to buy the market. Well, if company A lowers their rates to buy the market, then company B lowers their rates to follow them down or even beat them down. And we have companies that are a little hostile towards each other right now that are racing themselves to the bottom when it comes to interest rates, and it pulls the rest of the industry down. Now, some companies are going to be more and less aggressive with this price war that we call margin compression. But we've seen profits go from $6,000 to $7,000 per loan down to $3,300 per loan, and everybody in the industry expects that number to go lower. So once again, from a real estate agent's point of view, where are you at in this whole thing? Well, you're going to see, some lenders have more competitive rates than others. And right now, the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rate average is like 2.95% at 0.7%. Now, that's just an average, okay? So you might have a lender who's a little in or a little out of the market, but we might see rates drop down, believe it or not, by another 50 basis points. And that would be just crazy to me. It's going to stress our lenders and their ability to keep their doors open. What it's also going to do is it's going to force some lenders to either scuttle their businesses or get acquired by other businesses. So we are going to see big banks probably getting bigger at the cost of smaller banks. And we are already starting to see these types of acquisitions with Caliber. And I can't recall who they were just purchased by. But again, where your dog in the fight in this, guys, is just check your interest rates. You're going to be very, very competitive in the near future. And if we find that we're going to start to get some more foreclosures out there, or we're going to start to have some more short sales, we're going to see the cost of money being very low, which means for at least the short-term future, the folks in your communities are still going to be able to afford these houses. And Jeff, I know you said this. I just want to repeat this point. It is so important for real estate agents to get in front of their clients right now. Sell those homes before they become short sales. Sell those homes before they become foreclosures. It's good for you. It's not your job. It's your duty. It's your obligation. It benefits not only you, but your community and the clients that you're serving. But the better part of it is that you're going to get listings and you're going to get low money, and that is going to be great for your business. And there will be winners and there will be losers. I think we saw, $3.9 trillion in the industry last year. According to Mark Zandi, and he's the Moody's economist and one of the best real estate economists in the world, said that we're going to be dropping off by 30% this year and 30% next year in terms of the volumes of mortgages. And that's going to have a direct effect on you guys. So go out there and get a bigger piece of the pie right now, because this is the chance to really kind of pivot and do the right thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just say this about this only because I know this cycle very well. I've seen it multiple times in my career. What this means is that as the business pressure, AKA a lot of lenders who are refi shops don't have refis anymore, they only know how to do one thing to try to combat the lack of business, and that's to come in and lower a rate. That's not sustainable. It's just like you as a realtor. If you go in as a listing agent and start go from 6-7% and drop your pants to 4 or 5, it's not sustainable. You cannot produce the same product. You cannot give the same marketing. You cannot give the same, the same result to your client. And it's the same thing for lenders. And it's very cyclical. It'll come and go. It'll flush a bunch of refi guys out of the business. It's the way it goes. It creates a thorn in the people like my business's side who always focus on realtors. It's a pain in the ass, but we're used to it, right? As a realtor, don't get caught up in that nonsense, because here's the deal. A lender that you've never heard of who's starting to infiltrate and offer low rates is a refi guy. They're not ready and equipped to probably be able to handle what you're about to throw at them. Yep. So stay the course, stay with the people that you rely on, stay with the people that have been with you, especially over the last 15 months, because those are the lenders who are serious about your business. There's a far fewer of them than you realize, but you know who they are, realtors. Stick by them and just understand what's going to be going on. Understand the pricing pressure and have the back of your lender. It will mean a ton to them. They will be there for you now. They were for you then, and they'll be there for you in the future. So stay with them.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Your phones are going to start ringing. They're going to start ringing, and they're going to start ringing with, sweatshop lenders.
Yeah.
That's just what they are.
That's right.
People who understand the purchase business in your local community who keep doing it.
That's right. Ryan, I think this is good. We are wrapping up right on the 30-minute mark, which is great.
Yes.
My friend, it has been a pleasure. We will speak to you again in 2 weeks, unless you and I talk offline, which we probably will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, watch out for the Titans. I think they just became the front runner to be in the Super Bowl.
I was watching Sports Center this morning. Oh, and by the way, man, your Giants just continue to do what they shouldn't be doing.
You're right. The no-name Giants, man. All they do is win.
Yeah.
All they do is win.
Yep,
so
I love it.
We're pretty happy about that.
I love it. All right, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys, for being on.
Thank you. Later.